Now, their idea of combat is tearing up the countryside with heavy artillery and millions of rounds. We'll wait days for one shot, one kill.
Tom Berenger is an 80s and 90s actor that may not be a household name, but he was in more than his share of really great movies. Of course, there was Oliver Stone's Platoon, The Big Chill, and a couple of others. And on the site, I've profiled a few of his movies, such as Shoot to Kill, which was a really solid action movie that he did with Sidney Poitier.
Maybe we ought to throw in some food. We are the food.
And of course, The Substitute, which is a real cult classic.
Motherfucker, you broke my hand!
I just bent a little. I don't break them on the first offense.
Now this time, we're taking a look at perhaps the best movie you never saw that actually got 9 sequels, Sniper.
Ain't no room for Peter Pan on this hunt.
This operation won't bear congressional scrutiny. It must be completely covert. That's your shooter. It's Master Gunnery Sergeant Thomas Beckett. He's the Marine Corps' top man.
In it, Tom Berenger plays Master Gunnery Sergeant Thomas Beckett, a legendary sniper with a massive amount of confirmed kills under his belt.
This little son of a bitch will take your head off at 1,000 yards.
His work nowadays has him embroiled in the war on drugs, with him having a particular bone to pick with 2 former allies gone rogue. One is the surgeon, an ex-CIA officer who works for Colombian drug lords as a torturer, while the other is De Silva, a rebel sniper who was once Beckett's protege.
He's a Panamanian I trained. His name's De Silva.
In the opening scenes, his spotter is killed, but Beckett is sent out once again to assassinate a Panamanian rebel leader named General Miguel Alvarez and his Colombian drug lord financier, Raul Ochoa. In classic action movie fashion, matters are complicated by the fact that for some reason the CIA decides that they want to send out a civilian to be his spotter.
A civilian?
Well, just hold on, wait a minute, take a look. The Army shooting team plucked this guy right out of ROTC.
Has he ever been in a jungle? Does he speak any Spanish?
And they choose Richard Miller, who is played by the great Billy Zane in one of his early roles. Now his character is supposed to be an Olympic sharpshooter and former member of the SWAT team, but, and he doesn't tell anybody this, he has no confirmed kills under his belt, which makes him perhaps not the best choice for what's poised to be a very, very, very deadly mission.
I'm not at liberty to discuss my mission.
So here's what makes Sniper really interesting. In your run-of-the-mill action movie, Zane's Miller would have been one of 2 things, either an innocent or a liability turned villain. The movie flirts with the latter, with Miller going to pieces the more violent the mission gets. But in a change of pace, he eventually rises to the occasion when Beckett is captured, eventually becoming the film's hero and earning Beckett's respect and friendship, despite having legitimately tried to murder him early in the film. Sniper comes from director Luis Loza, and it proved to be his ticket to major Hollywood career. At the time, he was best known for having directed low-budget Roger Corman action movies, and Sniper, despite being distributed by Sony, was actually an independent film with a bargain basement budget of just $5 million. It was shot in Australia, and it proved to be an inexpensive pickup for Sony, who were in the midst of a rough run of films after the disastrous reign of Peter Guber and John Peters in the early 90s. So at the time, Tom Berenger's career was in a bit of a weird place. Sure, he'd had some major hits with Platoon and of course Major League in 1989.
That guy she was with? I mean, I'm sure he's a close personal friend and all, but tell me, what was he doing wearing her panties on his head? Uh-oh, Rexy, I don't think this one's got the distance.
But he'd also had a few flops, such as Costa Gravis' Betrayed, and of course Shattered, which is an erotic thriller from the early 90s that has gotten a bit of a cult following now, but was a big flop when it came out in 91. He also showed up in smaller roles in a couple of art house films that nobody really saw, such as The Field and At Play in the Fields of the Lord.
Before we continue with our video, here's a reminder to click the Store tab on any of our Joblo channels and browse our collection of the latest and freshest designs in our merch store. Go get you some.
Sniper, of course, would trade on the notoriety of perhaps his most famous role, that of the brutal Staff Sergeant Barnes in Oliver Stone's Platoon. But while that battle-scarred veteran was depicted as a sadist, Sniper's Beckett was a much more heroic military man, with him almost a supernaturally gifted killer.
Without the specifics, it's a suicide mission!
They're all suicide missions. I wouldn't be out here unless I was ready to die.
He's haunted by the fact that killing comes so easily to him, and he harbors an elaborate fantasy about retiring to a place in Montana which is totally out of his reach.
I plan to go back there and I don't know, start a little fishing camp, a guide operation, whatever.
While he's a killer, he definitely has a moral code and is especially bent on eliminating US trained professionals who've gone rogue, in this case the surgeon and De Silva.
Ex-CIA, I met him once up in El Salvador. Now he's an enforcer for the cocaine monkeys.
Sniper would also mark an early starring role for Billy Zane, who at the time was best known for his unhinged, villainous turn in the superb nautical thriller Dead Calm. Zane does a good job of humanizing the way out of his element Miller,
Jarhead, fucking flat-top lifer.
and boldly allows him to go full-on crazy before pulling back a bit towards the end as he emerges a hero. Like a lot of cool 90s action movies, Sniper runs a taut 90 minutes and change and doesn't waste a lot of time plunging us into the action. The violence is hardcore, the characters are memorable, and the acting is solid all around.
This career chooses a man. Ain't the other way around.
Like I said, for the plans.
Now, Sniper proved to be a decent enough hit for Sony Pictures. They released it in the dog days of January in 1993, which was back then known as a no man's land for movies. But it did pretty well at the box office, earning about $18 million, which was several times its budget. Yet, it was a huge hit on cable and home video, leading to its sequels many years later. So, how did Sniper become this crazy enduring franchise that's still going 30 years later, even if a lot of people don't even know that it was spawned by a movie that, opened in theaters 30 years ago? Well, let me explain. In the early 2000s, the DTV boom was massive, and suddenly studios decided they would start churning out direct-to-video action movies, which was a genre they'd previously turned their noses up at. Actors who had lost their cachet as action stars in theatrical films, such as Steven Seagal, Wesley Snipes, and Jean-Claude Van Damme, found a comfortable niche in the genre, and Columbia decided to exploit the success of Sniper by making a Sniper 2 9 years after the original. While low budget, the studio was, however, able to lure Tom Berenger back to star in the leading role, which is something the makers of the substitute direct-to-video sequels were not able to do because by the time Sniper 2 was made, his career as a viable leading man in theatrical movies had kinda tapered off.
Fuck you and fuck your cause.
So Sniper 2 proved to be a surprise smash on DVD, and Berenger returned for Sniper 3 2 years later in 2004. At this point, the DVD boom came to an end, and the series actually went on hiatus, only to be resurrected once again by Sony with Sniper Reloaded, which centered around the son of Berenger's character, played by Chad Michael Collins, who's headlined all the subsequent films. They managed to get Billy Zane back to reprise his role as Miller, with him now a mentor-type figure, and Zane and Berenger seemed to trade off installments going forward, although they were both in Sniper Ultimate Kill.
Best job you ever had.
Oh God, don't start, please.
The franchise has become a DTV staple for Sony, and has been popular enough that a rip-off Steven Seagal movie, Sniper Special Ops, tried actually to pass itself off as an installment in the franchise. But don't be fooled. So the Sniper series is kind of an interesting phenomenon. The first film wasn't a particular hit, only did modestly at the box office, but, was a pretty big hit on home video and cable, and has spawned a franchise that, against all odds, 30 years later is still going. Like I said, it's the most obscure film that you maybe never saw that got 9 sequels. So if you haven't seen Sniper, and you like hardcore military action movies with an action bent, this is one for you. I guarantee you're gonna like it.
Come on, let's get out of here before those cheese dicks pages over the PA system.